I found a hidden letter from my wife and broke down. Last night, I was cleaning out the drawers in our bedroom, something I'd been putting off for months. It was just supposed to be one of those boring, mundane tasks. But buried underneath an old stack of receipts, I found an envelope with my name on it. It wasn't sealed, and the handwriting was of my wife. I hesitated for a second before opening it, my heart racing for reasons I couldn't explain. Was this something she wrote, but never gave me? Was it a goodbye? Inside was a letter written months ago. The first few lines immediately broke me. I know you've been struggling. I know you feel like you're failing us. But you need to know that I see you. Every late night. Every small gesture. Every sacrifice. You're not failing. You're holding us together, even if you don't feel like it. I really, really love you, my name. She went on to thank me for things I didn't even realize she noticed. How I always made sure her favorite snacks were in the pantry. How I'd let her vent even when I was exhausted. And how I stayed up late working just so we could have some extra breathing room financially. By the time I finished the letter, I was in tears. I'd been feeling so lost lately, like I wasn't enough for her or our family. I never told her that, but somehow she knew. When she came home, I showed her the letter and tried to thank her, but she froze. She looked confused and said, "What letter?" My stomach dropped. She didn't remember writing it. For a moment, I thought it wasn't even hers. My mind spiraled. Was this some kind of cruel prank? Then she burst out laughing. "I'm kidding," she said, grinning at me. "I thought you'd never find that." She explained that she'd written it during a tough week when she saw how much I was carrying without complaint. She meant to give it to me, but then felt awkward and stuffed it in the drawer, thinking I'd never come across it. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry again. She pulled me into a hug and said, "You deserved to hear it then, and you still do now. Sometimes, life feels so heavy that we forget we're not in it alone. And sometimes, the people who love us most find the perfect way to remind us, whether by accident or not." Next story. Am I the asshole for just deciding not to travel because my wife made reservations for Disney again? My wife Jess and I have been married for the past 13 years. We're both 39. After experiencing financial hardship throughout our 20s and early 30s, Jess and I are now fortunate enough to have the means to travel once or twice a year. The only problem is that Jess literally only wants to go to Disney World. We have been to Disney 9 times now, and every vacation we have ever taken together was to go there, including our honeymoon. So we eat the Mickey Mouse ice cream, we wear the mouse ears, we stay in the official hotels, we see the characters, we ride the rides, we take the pictures in front of Cinderella's castle, and we come home. Every trip. I'm honestly beyond sick of Disney, and I never really liked going in the first place. Jess knows this, but she has no concept of travel beyond Disney. We're currently planning a trip for April, and Jess, as usual, said that we can just go to Disney. I explained that it sounds fun, but hey, why don't we go somewhere like Hawaii this time? Jess was confused. She asked why we would go to Hawaii. I responded that we could enjoy the spas and go to the beach. Jess mumbled a half-hearted answer and walked away. A few days later, she approached me, saying that she made hotel reservations for Hawaii. At first, I was excited because although she did so without consulting me, it seemed like she was really listening. But then when she showed me the hotel she booked, I found she had made reservations for Aulani, the Disney resort in Hawaii. Frustrated, I told her that I'm honestly tired of Disney and that I just want to have a different experience this time. She told me that she was compromising with me and that I should be appreciative for the time she spent. I asked her if she was willing to consider anything other than Disney for our trip, and she said no. At this point, I said that I wasn't going. Now she's furious. She canceled the reservation she made, and now she's looking for a friend to go to Disney World with again without me. Was I the asshole here for not trying to accommodate her request? Update. About a week ago, I made a post about an argument my wife Jess and I had. The TLDR version of it is Jess loves going to Disney World, and we have gone there for literally every trip during our marriage, which is now at an impressive 9 times. When I asked Jess if we could go somewhere like Hawaii, she suggested Aulani, the Disney resort, and I dismissed the idea immediately. This upset Jess. Here's the update. I screwed up. I know most people were giving me the NTA judgment, but Jess actually showed a great deal of openness to my idea. She took initiative by reserving the hotel because she wanted me to be happy. When I said nope, no Disney, she felt that I hadn't put any effort into taking her feelings into consideration. And she was completely right. I hadn't. It was, in a twisted way, my form of revenge for dragging me to Disney World all those times. In the last post, some people commented about how Aulani barely even looks like a Disney resort at all. This is something I should have researched myself before I threw the gauntlet down with Jess. When I looked into it, it looks like a run-of-the-mill Hawaiian resort. In my defense, going to Disney World 9 times has kind of made me sensitive, and I'm fairly sure that on a Rorschach test I'd see nothing but mouse ears at this point, but I really should not have jumped to conclusions. A day after I made the post, I approached Jess and apologized. I was wrong. Yes, she might be a Disney adult, but aside from always wanting to go to their theme parks, she's never obnoxious about it. I said I was sorry, and asked for permission to reserve the hotel again. And Jess responded that she'd love to go to Aulani with me. When I told her that it's not really all that Disney, Jess said, of course I knew that. I wanted to go because my sister said it was beautiful. I'm a moron. Jess and I have replanned our vacation, and we're super excited to be going now. I came to this realization because a lot of people pointed out some things I should have figured out myself. Thank you. Update 2. Hi again, everybody. This situation all started because my wife Jess and I had an argument about going to Disney World on vacation again. I didn't want to go because we had already been 9 times, and when I suggested Hawaii, Jess made reservations for Aulani, which is a Disney-owned resort. I immediately rejected this idea, mistakenly believing it was just another Disney vacation. Eventually, I realized that I was wrong, and that Aulani was a perfectly fine compromise. Unfortunately, we will not be going to Aulani for our upcoming vacation. A couple of days after Christmas, Jess had a minor car accident. She mistook drive for reverse and backed into our garage door. When I heard the loud bang, I ran outside, and I found Jess holding her neck in the car. I immediately drove her to the hospital, where she got x-rays done. She seemed fine, but the doctor said that based on her symptoms, headache, neck pain, numbness in her fingers, she could have whiplash. Jess and I figured that she would be fine in a couple of days, but almost 2 weeks later, she is still complaining about back pain. Yesterday, she approached me, saying that she wasn't confident she could go to Hawaii in a few months. I asked what she wanted to do, and while apologizing profusely, she asked me if we could postpone that trip. I responded that she had absolutely nothing to apologize for. After that, she said that she felt bad about not being able to go to Hawaii, but she might be able to make it to Disney World. While I didn't understand at first, she told me that it has very high accessibility and, in a worst-case scenario, ECV rentals. She doubts that will be necessary, but assured me that we could take it easy there. I know that this isn't the conclusion people here wanted, and it's certainly not what I wanted to do with my next vacation, but Jess's health has to come first here. We've made our reservations. It's not where I want to go, but Jess is super happy right now, and that's what matters most to me. Thank you all for your input. Next story. Am I the asshole for simply telling my grandma and aunt that I will not be willing to help if my mother has another baby? I'm 15F, and I'm absolutely tired of being the third parent of my siblings. I have 5 siblings, and only one is older than me, and he doesn't live here. I have 4 younger ones, and 3 are still in elementary school. 8, 6, 5. They were all born when I was in elementary school. Guess how embarrassing that was. My mom swears up and down her life that she made it to all my events at school, which is a lie. I'm in 10th grade now, and my brother, 6, was talking to my grandma and aunt about how he wants my mom to have a baby, and he wants it to be a boy and how I could be taking care of it. I said, no, I'm not, and my grandma said, it would be helpful to your mom and dad if you did. In my brain, I don't give a damn. Mini backstory. When I was 10, my little sister was born. In 2019 is when I turned into the third parent. My mom took us to our dad's mom's house often, and when my little sister was like, for the 5 months old, she started coming along. She hated my grandma, so she was always stuck on me since I'm the oldest. I made the bottles, I changed diapers, I did bath time, I did nap time, I did night shift, I did playtime. It was a struggle having to do bottles every other 2 hours and feed. It was a struggle having to change diapers that smelt like it vomited in a room full of dead people. It was a struggle having to deal with an infant who hated bath time and refused to come out. It was a struggle having to get her to nap without contact. It was a huge struggle and painfully difficult having to wake up every 2 hours to a crying baby because she was gassy, hungry, needed a fresh diaper, or wanted to be held pretty much anything. While my other siblings and my cousin was up and around playing and watching TV, I was stuck having to feed a baby and rock her to sleep, and it was so difficult, especially for a 10-year-old. She would be on me like glue, no kidding. She would cry nonstop if she wasn't laying on me or I wasn't holding her. It was a tragic experience having a baby in your arms while you used the toilet. Father, I was constantly tired as a 10-year-old. My mom would say, you're a big sister. The baby's like you. And I'm like, nah, woman. You keep your damn legs close until I see fit. Ada for saying I'm not willing to help with another child if my mom decides to have another one. Honest answers only. Next story. Am I the asshole for not offering to host my niece's shower? I'm the one in my family that hosts get-togethers, holidays, graduation parties, showers, etc. I'm an event planner and own a small event hall, so it just makes sense, plus I genuinely enjoy it. My side of the family is huge, lots of siblings and kids. I have always offered up my event hall and planning for their use even though it comes at a cost for my business. My niece, now 25F, we can call her Mary, has taken me up on that 3 times in the past for her post-elopement party and 2 baby showers. For each of those, she gave me no directions, just said, do whatever you want. So I did, trying to keep her in mind. At her first baby shower, she turned up 30 minutes late in ragged sweats, stayed long enough to eat and gather up the presents, then left. No thank yous offered. My brother and SIL, her parents, made excuses, saying the pregnancy was very rough. So we made allowances for that. At her post-elopement dinner, she again showed up late, stayed on her phone the whole time, ate and left. Again, no thank yous. When my mother commented on that, my brother said she was going through some newlywed stress as an excuse. Her second baby shower started the same way. When she asked me to gather up all the presents so she could leave, I suggested she stay and open them so everyone could enjoy seeing what was given. She scoffed and said, "I don't want to stay at these little parties any longer than I have to." So I gathered up the presents and decided not to offer my little parties to her in the future. Fast forward to her sister's wedding shower. We have a delightful time, even though Mary has done the usual eat and leave without offering to help or just be there for her sister. My brother and I are loading up the presents when he mentions that Mary is expecting again, and when can I host the shower? I told him I wouldn't be offering this time around, and why. He was taken aback and said that he was surprised I was letting that comment get under my skin, but whatever, my choice. The next day I get an irate call from Mary. I remind her that she said she didn't care for my parties, so why does she want it anyway? It turns out she got rid of all her baby supplies and needed a shower to get the presents. I told her to post her registry online, and I'm sure people would help her out. She got angry and hung up. Then my brother calls. He says I'm being childish. I told him that if he wants the shower, he can pay for it, and gave him the standard quote for that event cost. He just sputtered and said they'd have someone else host. The family is divided on this one. I still feel like I am not being unreasonable. Next story. Am I the asshole for asking my pregnant wife to rustle me up a beef Wellington between contractions? When my wife, 29F, Pisces, nymphomaniac, was in labor last weekend, I, 33M, Libra, kleptomaniac, genuinely don't know which of us suffered the most. On the one hand, my wife was enduring the unimaginable pain of pushing during contractions, as an 8-pound human tried to force its way through her birthing canal. She'd been awake for 20 hours. The pain relief was wholly inadequate, and she was under extreme emotional and physical stress. On the other hand, I had to sit next to her on a really uncomfortable molded plastic chair, listening to the Joe Rogan podcast on my AirPods. And I hadn't eaten anything in 3 hours. 3 hours. So I decided to man up and do something about it. "Darling," I said, "if you're not too busy, could you rustle me up a beef Wellington before the baby pops out? I'm absolutely ravenous." Now, it might have been the way I said it, because admittedly I was quite tired, but for some reason she flew into a rage. "Are you fucking kidding me?" she yelled. I remember the midwife, 53F, Taurus pyromaniac, staring at me, and for a second I thought she might want beef Wellington too. That awkward moment was punctured when my wife let rip with an enormous fart before beginning another excruciating contraction. In the end, just as the baby's 0M, Capricorn, compulsive gambler, head was emerging, I strolled to the vending machine and got myself some peanuts, which was a big mistake as I forgot my wife is allergic. She freaked out again when she saw me munching on them moments later in the delivery room. But by that point, I was so hungry I'd have feasted on the placenta. Ever noticed how all midwives are fat? Mystery solved. Of course, if my wife hadn't been so lazy in the first place, then there wouldn't be a problem. So tell me, idea? And should I go no contact with the midwife?